Welcome back to the channel, coaches. It was a great holiday season for me, but it's time to start talking football today. Today we're going to talk about adjusting and defending the unbalanced formation.
We're not going to get a second chance in the game.
Now, this coaching series for youth football or new coaches has been a lot of fun to make. Number one, anytime you're talking football, it really forces you to think through your own philosophies. And as you think through your philosophies, well, they just sharpen up. So they're fun to make. It's fun to talk ball. I encourage you to sit with your coaching staff, your buddies that you coach with, and draw up a problem and try to solve that problem schematically. It just keeps you sharp, right? It's like using a foreign language. Well, today we're going to talk unbalanced formations. Now, unbalanced formations you run into quite a bit, especially as you start to see a little bit better competition, because a coach who starts to gain more experience realizes that a quick advantage can be found by simply throwing in an unbalanced formation. So the key for you is really two things. Number one, of course, you have to have a plan for how you're going to adjust to this unbalanced formation or formations. And number two is that you actually can recognize in game when they have an unbalanced formation on you, and you make that shift or you put that plan into practice. Now, before I jump into this, I haven't said thank you to our members for a while, so a huge thank you. I'm going to post our newest members here. Be sure to check that out. So much of our library continues to get moved over here to this channel, so I hope that you guys are checking that out. Also prepared to do another webinar, waiting for suggestions from our members, but we are going to Fort Myers, Florida this month to meet with 4 top-notch high school football coaches. We'll be doing some podcasting with those guys. They'll present. All of that will be able to be found here on the YouTube channel. Back to our tutorial, we're talking unbalanced formations and defending them. Let's jump over to the whiteboard. Now, I have drawn up here just a simple 4-4 defense. Today's not really necessarily about schematics. You can do several of these things out of pretty much any defense. It's about giving you an idea and a plan for defending unbalanced. So again, as teams get better, you see better competition, you're going to catch these unbalanced formations in your game. But I guess I should say, you should catch. Will you catch it? Do you recognize it when you see it? So the number one challenge is recognizing unbalanced formations. Now, an unbalanced formation is just as it sounds. It is not balanced. Okay, now technically, even for example, the pro eye, that's not a balanced formation, right? Like this receiver has to be off the line so that this receiver can be eligible, because the only people eligible to catch a pass are the people that are on the line at the ends of the line of scrimmage. They're the only ones eligible. So anybody outside of them, in order to be eligible to catch a pass, would have to be off the line. So if I were to bring this man over here, who's an on-the-line player, play like an X overlook, that becomes an unbalanced formation. I now have, many more guys on one side of the ball than the other, but I've also covered up an eligible receiver. Now let's go ahead and color this guy blue real quick, that tight end. Now it is possible, it does happen, where they bring this X over, but they actually move their tackle over there, and they put the tight end so they still have an eligible receiver there to the weak side. That happens too. Okay, you're really going to defend both of them the same, because I think, especially at the youth and high school level, that you can't put too much on your kids' plates in recognizing whether or not this kid is an eligible number. I think it's a lot to ask a kid in the heat of battle. Now, if you happen to be facing a team who does just one or the other and you can prepare for it all week, that's a different story. But for the most part, you're going to say, we're going to adjust to unbalanced in this way, and we'll go ahead and treat this man as if he is eligible. And we'll just treat him like that all the time. But for now, let's go ahead and move him back. So they have unbalanced this formation. This is just one example of an unbalanced formation. A couple things that I could do. First of all, I have to recognize it as a coach. Now, I highly recommend Don't put this on the backs of your kids. They're too hard to recognize in game. Your kids have not been watching football as long as you have and have not seen as much football as you have. It is going to be harder for them to recognize. They also have way more on their plate. They have a key they're supposed to be looking at as the team comes out, right? Who's their key? That's who they're looking for. They're nervous. They're tired. They might be upset. Maybe number 54 on the other side just pinched them really hard on the last play. There's so much going on. I think it's a bad idea to leave the on-field adjustment for adjusting to unbalance up to the kids. It should come from you, right? So you're going to give an audible call, and the call needs to echo across, right? So if I'm over here as the coach, let's put a C here. I'm the coach. This is my sideline here. And they break the huddle, and I recognize right away that's unbalanced. So I'm going to start making my call. We have to have practiced this in practice, that the call echoes across, right? So for example, one of our calls is elephant. Elephant, elephant. And our kids have to practice. The corner is going to be the first one to hear me. He's closest. He's got to echo it. Elephant, elephant. And then these kids, elephant, 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 all the way across. They've got to echo this call. So that has to be practiced, or else they're not going to echo it in game. Any call gets echoed across the field. So you as the coach have got to recognize unbalance, and you got to recognize it fast. So I highly recommend, if you don't know how good you are at it yet, or you've never tried to recognize unbalance, well, shoot, you just start on weekend football. This weekend, as you're watching the NFL playoffs or you're watching the college playoffs, you look and see if you can recognize when they go unbalanced, because they will. College and NFL level, they sneak one in all the time. They end up in unbalanced formations. So you want to be able to recognize it. Now, of course, there's a couple things you can do to adjust to unbalanced formations. I'll give you a couple examples. One of my favorite videos on studying unbalanced formations and how to adjust is from Nick Pelham. Nick Pelham, this one here is for if you become a Touchdown member, you can see this one, but it's also over on our clinic.chiefpigskin.com. Nick Pelham, probably one of the best speakers we've ever had on the online clinic, a championship level coach from out in South Carolina, really incredible 3-4 defense. But he did an entire hour-long presentation, hour and a half actually. The guy can talk like nobody's business, and he just keeps going, adding details and details and details to his content. It's incredible to watch. You got to see it. But and Nick Pelham, that's the best video. So if you want to go deep into studying unbalanced shifts and adjustments, you got to see that one by Nick Pelham. But I'm just going to give you an overview. Now, you and your staff have to pick 1, 2, maybe 3. How old are your kids? What are your kids capable of? And say, what can our kids do? Okay? So the number one thing is we want to match numbers with numbers. What we don't want to do is do nothing. We can't let ourselves change nothing when they come out in an unbalanced formation. If we get stuck doing nothing, we're letting them play this game with an advantage, a numbers advantage. And it's the easiest advantage for a team to have. You can't just give them a numbers advantage. We've got to adjust. All right. So with that being said, in my opinion, the easiest thing to do is just to bump your linebackers. You need a call for that. You're going to yell something out. Now, you could use something with an L and something with an R, bump left, bump right. But I also like things like bump towards me, towards my voice, and away from my voice. So let's use a push-pull call. So in this case, they've come out, I recognize it's unbalanced, and it's unbalanced towards me. I'm on this sideline, and I yell out, pull, pull, pull. When I yell out, pull, 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 I want all of my linebackers to adjust over towards me, one entire man. Now, that simple adjustment has helped match numbers. They are highly likely to run the ball towards this unbalanced look. So I've just taken my 4 linebackers, who happen to be most likely 4 of my best players, and have moved them over an entire man over and adjusted towards the side I know they are highly likely to attack. So the push-pull, simply adjust, bump one man over. So if I am this linebacker and I used to line up over just outside the guard, and I hear a pull call, I want to line up just outside the center. okay, I've moved my linebackers back to their base spot. This second option, I believe, could cause your defense to change less. However, it is a little bit more on one kid's back. This call comes from Nick Pelham over on his video, is a spin call. Now, generally speaking, in a 4-4 or a 3-5, if you play with an outside linebacker and you get this twins receiver look, so two receivers out wide, usually this outside linebacker has to split out with them. So he's kind of wide. So let's leave his rule the same. Again, I don't really want him, I don't expect him to recognize this. So they come out in this formation, and I, as the coach, recognize that's unbalanced. So my outside linebacker is going to bump like he always does against two receivers, and these two are going to play two receivers like they always do. Well, now this guy, he's ineligible. So instead of adjusting my whole defense, I could leave my whole defense intact, and I'm going to make a spin call. Spin, spin. So now when I spin, this safety is actually going to come down. So this safety comes down and plays right here basically in a 9 technique. And I want him to go ahead and continue to play. He's an inside hip player all the time. Continue to be an inside hip player. Now, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. We're not going to spend a ton of time teaching him how to be a 9 tech defensive end. Your safety is usually one of your best players. You're going to see this 2 times every other game. Let him come down, play in a 9, and just be an aggressive defender. And remind him, you're looking to be on the inside hip of this ball carrier. Now the rest of your defense has stayed intact. This corner's going to scoot over. He currently has no eligible receiver, but they could, of course, run something like this, in which case he does have an eligible receiver here with the backside tight end. Now, the final thing you can do to an unbalanced formation, okay, I shouldn't say the final. Obviously, the things you could do to an unbalanced formation are pretty endless. You can do whatever you want. You can move guys all over. You could change rules. You could bring a stunt at the point of attack. You'll see there's so much that you can do. I'm just trying to give you some of the easiest options to at least make sure that you're not outnumbered. So the next thing would be to move the whole front. So we call it man over. We want to move over one man, not just the linebackers, but everyone. So now instead of treating this man like the center, we treat this man as if he was the center, and everybody lines up accordingly. So the tackle, who's supposed to be in a 3 technique, which is outside shade of the guard, where's the guard play? Next to the center. Well, we're pretending this is the center, so my tackle would line up outside shade of the guard, which would put my rush end right here. The nose would scoot over one man. The D end scoots over one man. Again, just like I said, everybody is moving over one man. Now, that is a simple adjustment, but it does require everyone to move over. No rules have changed, anything like that. The downfall of this compared to something like a spin is when you spin down, you do get another rush defender and you play with less DBs. So that's a plus when you're defending unbalanced formation. And it's a plus because when you see an unbalanced formation, the odds of run go way up, right? If in a normal formation, the odds of run were 70%, then in an unbalanced formation, the odds of run are probably more like 90%. So certainly it's an advantage to play with more run defenders and less DBs. So that's what I like about the spin. However, what I like about man over is everyone is still in a place where they're comfortable. So everyone's comfortable still. Everybody plays over one man. Now the downfall of a man over is that if you are against an unbalanced formation that doesn't have a tight end, well, now all of a sudden, I think, in my opinion, I don't think you can man that over. I don't want my normal rush end way out here in space over nobody. I don't like that. So that's what I don't like about the man over call. However, for me, in the level of football I've coached, most unbalanced formations can allow me for a man over call. So those are a couple things that you can carry. If I do like to man over, but I get an unbalanced formation out of something like this instead, then that's when I'm going to have to say, hey, we're going to have to spin that. We're going to have to spin that unbalanced formation. It's kind of a wacky formation, but man, you'll see teams do all sorts of things. So they got this little bit of wacky formation, and we're going to spin down and make sure that we have matched numbers with numbers. Now, as I got into this, I noticed that this really kind of explaining through or walking you through some unbalanced options really got way more confusing than I thought. It was harder than I thought. I thought it was going to be a breeze to just walk you through some options to things to do when things go unbalanced. But of course, things are never so black and white in football. Teams can do so many different things. So that's why you got to spend time, especially with your buddies that coach with you, troubleshooting, problem solving. What do our opponents like to do, and what can we do to make sure that we're still in a good position to defend these guys? Hey, what did I forget? What do you guys like to do to unbalance? Is it something that we didn't cover? Comment down below. Appreciate you guys for keeping up with the channel, and happy to be back talking ball.